while gathering herbs on the mountain, I encountered a badly wounded man. He promised me that if I got him out, he would take me as his concubine, as if being a concubine were a blessing. The neighbor became the magistrate's concubine, and within 2 months the official's main wife beat her to death and threw her on the common burial mound. Her family didn't even dare to retrieve the body. I shook my head. I won't be a concubine. If you want to repay me, give me 100 taels. Before I could finish, the man interrupted. Want to be my primary wife? You're just a country girl. You're not worthy. To be a concubine in the Yongchang Marquis's household is already immense fortune for you. Maybe he hadn't heard me, so I patiently repeated, 100 taels of silver as your repayment. Impossible. How could I, the heir of a Marquis's house, be ungrateful? You saved me. I must repay you, take you as my concubine, sheltering you from wind and rain. He doesn't understand plain speech. I took a deep breath, picked up a large stone from the ground, and struck him while he looked panic-stricken. The man's head lolled and he slumped to the ground, utterly lifeless. Concubine, concubine, concubine. In the next life you can be a concubine yourself. I rummaged through his belongings and found a finely crafted jade pendant. It was warm to the touch and seemed worth a good deal of silver. Isn't this money? As expected, the richer someone is, the stingier they even wanted a free concubine. To hell with that. I kept the pendant and sighed over the dead man. Since I did a good deed, I'll bury you properly. I'm just soft-hearted. After all, you killed him. A richly dressed but equally battered man stumbled out of the trees, disheveled, and shouted in fury, "Audacious commoner! How dare you assassinate the heir of the Yongchang Marquis's house?" I frowned. You saw that? The man froze. Saw what? Don't shout nonsense. Could a frail woman inflict so many wounds on him? The Yongchang Marquis's heir had multiple knife wounds and an arrow, bleeding without timely treatment. He was bound to die soon enough. I only did him a kindness by ending his suffering early. The man before me seemed to find that reasonable and restrained his anger. I won't hide it from you. Miss, I am the Zhennan Wang. If you saved me, I will reward you handsomely. Oh, another noble. The title Zhennan Wang sounded even more prestigious and valuable than a marquis's heir. 100 taels was far too little for his status. I should ask for more, start with 1,000, then negotiate down if needed. With money I wouldn't have to risk climbing mountains for herbs and could open an apothecary. I asked plainly, what reward? The Zhennan Wang said, the emperor currently has no sons. I was summoned to the capital. Do you know what that means? I shook my head. None of my concern. I only cared about the silver. The Zhennan Wang choked. How foolish. Never mind, I will instruct you later. If you save me, I can promise you the position of secondary consort. His voice was proud, full of imperial arrogance. When I ascend the throne, you will be an empress in the palace, enjoying boundless wealth and supreme power. His wounds made him slide down and lean against a tree. His face was pale, but his gaze remained haughty. I leaned close and whispered, lower your voice, you'll draw beasts. I don't want to be your secondary consort, he exclaimed. You want to be the primary consort? Impossible, your status is too low. Being a secondary consort is already a favor. Under normal circumstances, someone of your background wouldn't even qualify to be a lowly concubine in a prince's household. His tone was mocking, his look contemptuous, as if granting me the role of secondary consort were my great fortune. Lower your voice, you'll bring wild animals. Neither of us will get away. Even my patience had limits. I was angered by his loud boasting on top of the blood and gore around. I stuffed grass into his mouth to silence him. You don't have to marry me. Just give me 1,000 taels of silver as payment. Too much, 800 will do. 700. Nod or shake your head. The Zhennan Wang stared at me without moving. I frowned. 500 taels, no less. If you don't agree, stay right here. I'll move the weeds away if you promise to speak quietly. Seeing him nod, I removed the weeds. How many women have broken their heads to get into the Prince of Zhennan's mansion, and you dare refuse? Send this prince back to the mansion safely and I'll spare you the corpse. The Prince of Zhennan spoke as if he had never suffered such humiliation, heedless of his own situation and speaking without restraint. His words were full of murderous intent. If he hadn't been gravely wounded and unable to move, I would probably be dead by now. Another arrogant man who can't understand human speech. Regretfully, I picked up the blood-stained stone. Stop, dare to assassinate the future emperor, and I will execute your 9 clans, sell you to the filthiest brothel to be trampled by 1,000 and ridden by 10,000. The voice, shocked and enraged, cut off abruptly. The man who called himself the Prince of Jiangnan rolled his eyes and collapsed to the ground, a large hole in his head, blood spurting out uncontrollably. I checked his breath. It was already gone. Good, a single strike to kill spared him any suffering. Otherwise I would have felt truly uneasy. Who says I'm not a soft-hearted person too? The man who calls himself the South King of this town has a lot of valuable things on him. Jade pendants, bracelets, jade rings, any one of them taken out at random would be worth several hundred taels. What good is it to value silver so much? In the end, won't it still end up in my hands? The smell of blood easily attracts beasts, so I used dirt to thoroughly cover the bloodstains on the ground. I dragged those 2 men who were sharing weal and woe to a clearing with a water source, planning to cremate them before giving them a proper burial. There are many wolves, tigers, and leopards deep in the mountains. Even if you dig a pit and bury them, most likely the beasts will dig them up and eat them. Thinking of that scene, it's truly pathetic. Better to burn it and bury the ashes. I, a frail woman, worked all afternoon with no one to help, exhausted, my clothes soaked with sweat, and the firewood was barely enough. My stomach growled from hunger. I took out the rations I always carry and prepared to eat a bite. Miss, save me. Another badly wounded man appeared. Did I poke a man's nest today? The man was filthy, his face dangerously pale, and the bloodstains on his body had congealed into patches of dark brown. He painfully crawled out from behind a tree and, summoning his remaining strength, said in one breath, I am Jiang Ji, son of the Grand General of the Longwu Guard. If you are willing to help me, I will present 1,000 taels of gold, offer you the position of my principal wife, and swear to treat you kindly for the rest of my life. If I break this vow, may heaven strike me with thunder. This is quite interesting. If I treat you as the legitimate wife, what about your principal wife? The favor of saving a life is the greatest kindness. My wife is the most sensible person, and she would surely be willing to relinquish the position of the legitimate wife to the girl, gladly demeaning herself to a concubine. I was only testing whether he had a wife, but I didn't expect there really was one. Your wife must come from a family of power and nobility just like you. Is she really willing? A woman, upon marriage, must regard her husband as heaven. She has no choice but to obey. Whose daughter had 8 generations of bad luck before she married you? I took a deep breath and pointed at the woodpile. Do you know him? Jiangji glanced quickly, then pleaded in a mournful voice, I do know them. The heir of the Marquis of Yongchang and the minor prince of Jiangnan. We went into the mountains to hunt together, were separated when assassins attacked, and I never imagined the 2 of them would fall victim to the assassins' knives. When I returned to the capital to report to His Majesty and explain that the lady, out of kindness, collected their bodies, the Yongchang Marquisate and the Jiangnan prince's household will surely thank her, and the emperor will reward her, I fell silent. When I pulled them, their hair ornaments had come loose, their clothes were torn beyond recognition of style or color, their bodies piled with firewood, and dusk was approaching so the light was dim. Even if you got close, you couldn't see their faces without clearing away the wood. He actually recognized them at a glance. Please, miss, save me. When I inherit the general's household, I will honor the miss as the mistress of the house, in charge of the household provisions. The rest of his words I smashed back with a stone. This man's life force is pretty tenacious. Even after being hit by the stone, he didn't die right away, and he kept asking in fits and starts, "Why? He gave me silver and made me his lawful wife. Why would I still want to kill him? Do you think losing 1,000 taels of gold doesn't pain me?" My heart hurt as if a great hole had been punched through it. But compared with this heartache, I'm more afraid of having money to spend but not a life to spend it with. This person clearly came out because they saw me kill the South King of the town and could no longer hold back. Someone who can bend and stretch, once he's saved, Crushing me like an ant will be nothing to him, that said. Doesn't Grand General of the Longwu Guard only have a daughter? Since when did a son appear? He must be a swindler. Thinking of this, I briskly hit him with another stone. 3. The man had no valuable accessories on him, only 2 ingots of silver, still so poor, yet he dares call himself a general's son, and he doesn't even bring much when he goes out, but at least it can somewhat comfort my irritated mood. Current silver is better matched with accessories. No marks, no need to go to the black market to exchange, can be used directly. The accessories can only be kept for my private enjoyment for now. I dragged his corpse to the firewood pile, and the 3 of us burned him up in a neat blaze. It burned until the next dawn. The last trace of flame finally extinguished. I stayed here all night, afraid sparks would fly and start another fire, so I could quickly douse it. The nearby villagers live off the mountain, so we can't let the forest be ruined. Since the 3 of you know each other, you'll have company on the road to the netherworld. Don't worry, I'll find you a spot with good feng shui to bury you. Next life you'll be reborn as livestock anyway. They don't understand human speech. I dug a pit by the water source, threw in the bones that hadn't fully burned, scooped in a few handfuls of ash, covered it with soil and tamped it down, then moved a few stones on top, that way the beasts won't dig it up. This place has clear mountains and clean waters. Rest in peace. Meeting me was the good fortune of those 3. If it had been someone else, they wouldn't have bothered to handle the aftermath so carefully. After all that fuss, I was tired and sleepy, so I headed to the small cabin I was temporarily staying in on the mountain to rest before going to gather herbs. Halfway there, a hand suddenly shot out from the grass and grabbed my ankle. I jumped in fright. The hand was slender and fair but covered in wounds, and it held on with surprising strength. I parted the grass and, sure enough, found a woman lying there. She wore a fitted short jacket with narrow sleeves and had her hair tied high in a ponytail, dressed in a crisp, straightforward manner that made her seem pleasant and dignified. How strange. What's with today? Not only did I run into a group of men, but I also bumped into a wounded person. I reached out to check her breath. She was still alive. I gently tapped her cheek. "Miss, wake up." The woman slowly opened her eyes, her breathing faint, and whispered, "Miss, save me." She fumbled in her bodice and handed me a gold bracelet and a gold hairpin, then fainted. The weight told me they were pure gold. There were no markings and the designs were ordinary. Sigh, my soft heart got the better of me. I had no choice but to carry her back to the mountain hut, carefully clean her wounds, and apply the herbs I had just collected. I also brewed a fever-reducing decoction and forced it down her throat. I did everything I could. The rest was up to fate, fortunately. By the next morning her fever had broken and she was lucid. "I will repay your great kindness," she said. I hurriedly waved it off and took out the bracelet and hairpin she'd given me. "You've already paid me. There's no need for repayment. These nobles aren't always sensible. Who knows if their repayment might be terrifying. I am the only legitimate daughter of the current sovereign, Princess Yuan Zhao. You saved me, so I must reward you richly. When I return, I will report to my father and have you ennobled. Not going to make me a concubine, right? Though the emperor is supremely honored, I don't want to be his consort, nor go into the palace. The concubines there can't go out freely. It's like being imprisoned. I can't oppose a noble, so I could only take advantage of her illness to avoid the worst. No need, county lord, be my sworn younger sister. I grant you power and wealth." I immediately stopped searching for a handy tool. "Really," the princess said solemnly, "I am not ungrateful. If you have other requests, speak them." I beamed. No, this is perfect." This commoner thanks the princess for her generosity. Kindness truly pays off. "By the way, what were you trying to say just now?" the princess asked, struggling to sit up. I hurried over to help her settle and thoughtfully placed a cushion behind her. "I meant, you've just woken. Don't overexert yourself. Tell me anything you need. If you want me to go kill a tiger for your strength, I'll go at once." For the following days I dutifully tended the princess, determined to satisfy her. Come to think of it, don't nobles usually travel surrounded by attendants and servants? Why did the ones I met have no guard at all? After the princess recovered, her guard finally appeared. Could he have been there all along? hiding in the shadows and watching me. That was a petty thought. I'm soft-hearted and kind. How could I do anything ill? The princess wanted me to return to the capital with her, but I had to dry the herbs I'd worked so hard to collect first. Before leaving, she gave me a token and told me not to run off, wait until her people came for me. But before the princess's men arrived, my father's men came first. Without asking, they invited me back to the general's mansion. Oh, old Deng, tired of the good life and come back to make things difficult. I opened my mouth and the Dragon Guard Grand General, who'd been ready to put on a tearful display of fatherly love, twisted his face. Don't you miss your father at all? Weren't you the one who sent me away and neglected me all these years? A flicker of guilt passed over my father's face. That was, Master, Jia has had no news for so many days. Something must have happened. Send more people out to search, even if you have to turn the capital inside out. Find him, uncle. My brother is missing. My sister-in-law is so anxious she's miscarrying. My mother came in sobbing with her niece from her natal family, Jiang Yang. Who is Jia? I was very curious. What did his disappearance have to do with my father? Jia, of course, is and the master's son. My mother knit her brows tightly. I said Jia was fine. How could something happen to him? It must be your curse. I refused to take that blame. If she's hysterical, call a doctor. If that won't do, hire a shaman to do a ritual. Barking like a dog is useless. I sincerely asked my father, since when did you have a big son? Didn't my mother only give birth to me? How rude. Matters of elders are not for you to question. Did I ask you, Master? Look at her. She doesn't give me, as her mother, any respect at all. My father looked around guiltily and ignored my mother's wailing. He was added the year before last. Jiang Yang righteously reproached me. Cousin, how can you speak ill to your uncle and aunt? As children you must obey your parents and elders. Even if you weren't taught manners at the manor, you should at least know that. I lifted my eyelids and looked at her coldly. So you learned manners, but don't you know not to interrupt when others speak? It seems your lessons weren't very good. Have my father arrange 2 more nannies for you to take a refresher course. Aunt, I know I live under others' roofs and fear causing you trouble. I try to be careful and dutiful to you and uncle every day. So why does my cousin still hate me so much? What did I do wrong? I clicked my tongue in wonder. Over the years, your skill at changing your face has improved a lot. Did you perhaps study at the Pear Garden? After all, I'm a daughter of an honest family. My cousin compares me to an actress only because I have no father or mother and am easy to bully. Jiang Yang burst into tears, and my mother immediately fluffed up like a hen protecting her chicks. He Li apologized to Yang. Rude thing. I ignored her unreasonable demand and stretched lazily. We've been traveling. I'm tired and need to rest. Where's the courtyard prepared for me? My mother trembled with fury. Seeing this, my father instructed the steward to lead me to the courtyard. From behind came my mother's frantic voice. Master, won't you do something? Are you just going to let her run wild like this? My father has indeed done well these past years. 10 years ago he was nothing more than a minor general of the 3rd rank, and the family wasn't this grand. Now he's become the Dragon Guard General of the 2nd rank. He must have made a tidy sum over the years. The steward, hearing my muttering, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and hurried to explain. Miss, everything here was awarded by the Emperor for the General's meritorious service. The provenance is absolutely legitimate. Your courtyard was personally supervised by the General when arranging the servants. When Madam insisted on having the cousin live here, the General did not agree. My father did take pains to arrange the courtyard so everything was in order, but the style was obviously one my mother liked. Where did I get a son? The eldest young master is the twin brother of Miss Biao, Jiang Ji. 3 years ago, Madam had the eldest young master adopted out from the Jiang family into the He family register, renaming him He Ji. My father agreed to this just like that. Madam locked herself in her room for 3 days and 3 nights, refusing food and drink. The master feared something would happen to her. I had heard before that Jiang Yang had a twin brother who had been raised in the Jiang household. I never expected that at our first meeting I would be helping the man who robbed my father and seized my family's property. Sigh, I really am soft-hearted. After a day's travel, I had the servants bring hot water. enjoyed a comfortable bath, and fell into a deep sleep. 5. I don't know how long passed. Faint noises came from outside, and then a wisp of smoke slipped in through the window crack. Half an hour later, a young man's trembling voice sounded. Are we really going to do this? After all, she's the general's legitimate daughter, another middle-aged woman said softly. What is there to fear? Once she's no longer chaste, she can only marry you, become the general's son-in-law, and rise swiftly. How many people dream of such a good thing? What if we're discovered? You're always so cautious and timid, you refuse the riches and glory that are handed to you, yet you chase after what others are fighting for. I'll do it. The door was gently pushed open, and a shadow tiptoed in the dark toward my bed. Just as they lifted the canopy, I smashed a porcelain pillow into their head with perfect precision. The intruder let out a muffled groan and fell onto the bed, lifeless. That little knockout drug wasn't nearly enough to put me under. I hugged the porcelain pillow and stepped out barefoot, silently going to open the door. The person waiting outside was talking to themselves. He Lee, oh He Lee, if you insist on coming back to obstruct my son's future, don't blame me for being ruthless. She hadn't reacted yet when I hit her with a ceramic pillow. She fell to the ground, like her son, stubborn. She didn't die immediately and still had a faint breath. I am your mother, you beat and killed, your own mother. Heaven will not allow this. How could you be my mother? You're clearly the mother of Jiang Yang and Jiang Ji. My grandaunt, you little bitch, you really did know all along. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, aren't you always longing for Ji? Now you can be reunited with him. You killed Ji. She swallowed the last breath unwillingly. Master, the eldest miss killed madam. My lady's personal nanny rushed over with my father, wailing like a ghost. Master, you must stand up for madam. My father suddenly turned his head, his gaze heavy as he stared at the nanny. Who did you say was the murderer? The nanny's breath faltered. Teach the eldest miss. How could you possibly tell who the killer is in such darkness? This is clearly a framing. Seize this treacherous servant who murdered her lord, silence her, and take her away under strict guard. No sooner had my father finished speaking than the steward, accompanied by 2 guards, came in and dragged the terrified nanny away. Only my father and I remained in the room. My father was silent for a long time, then spoke. You were too impulsive, father. After all these years, you should wake up. She is not my mother, and she could never tell you where my mother is. My mother was killed by them long ago. Shut up. Your mother is still alive. She must be alive. I'll go fetch her home. It's been 12 whole years. Do you refuse to believe your mother is dead, or are you clinging to the comfort this thief gives you? It's the latter, isn't it? You even adopted her son. People's hearts change easily, after so many years. My father had long since lost his original resolve. The Yongchang Marquisate and the He family were a match bestowed by the emperor, but the headstrong marquis's daughter disliked the rough countryside-born military man who wielded blades and staves, and eloped with a handsome but poor scholar who went to the capital to take the exams. To avoid the charge of deceiving His Majesty, the Yongchang Marquisate let the second daughter, who had been lost at 1 year old while following the family to offer incense and had just been found, take the place of the eldest and marry into the He family. To the outside world they declared the second daughter was more accustomed to the countryside, wild and untamable, ran away with a man against her parents' and matchmakers' wishes, disgraced the Yongchang house, and had been disowned. My mother and Jiang Yang's mother were actually twins, identical in looks and height. My father had only seen the Marquis's lady a few times from afar at banquets. They never spoke and knew nothing of each other, so he naturally did not know the Marquisate had switched daughters to marry him. The He household was small, just an elder matriarch, kind by nature, who never bullied a daughter-in-law. My father and my mother were opposites, one stern, one gentle, and gradually grew affectionate after marriage, with benevolent elders and loving spouses. My mother lived happily after marriage. The upheaval came when I was 5. The Marquise of Yongchang fell seriously ill and sent word that she missed my mother and wanted her to come back to stay a bit. The current emperor valued filial piety. Even if my mother did not wish to go, she had to for my father's sake. During that time at the Yongchang Marquisate, My mother stayed in the marquise's courtyard to tend her illness. I stayed elsewhere, watched over by the marquise's trusted nanny. No matter how I cried and fussed, they would not let me see my mother. Later, my mother finally came to take me home, and she brought Jiang Yang. Ali, Yang's mother has died, her father drinks and gambles, the household is struggling, life has been very hard. From now on she will, like you, be a young lady of the general's residence. Though her tone, expression, and every movement were exactly like my mother's, I knew she was not my mother. Back at the general's manor, I cried to my father that the woman who returned was not my mother, that my mother was buried in the back garden of the Yongchang Marquisate, beneath an osmanthus tree. I had crawled through a dog hole and seen it with my own eyes. My father sneaked into the marquisate to search, but found nothing. He hinted and probed the woman at home, which only proved she was my mother. After Jiang Yang entered the household, she contested everything with me and compared herself to me at every turn. I was not meek, so she could not get the better of me, but she had people backing her. By the time my father returned, young as I had been punished to kneel in the ancestral hall for 5 days without swallowing a single grain of rice, barely clinging to life. The mother feigned sorrow and threw herself onto me. Ali, I never truly meant to punish you, it's just your wild nature, defying parents, quarreling with sisters. Unless you are properly disciplined you'll cause great trouble in the future. Little Jiang Yang cried with her. Cousin, I'm sorry, I won't take the chicken leg anymore, I didn't steal your wet nurse, you may beat or scold me, I won't fight back. Rumors began circulating in the capital that I was rebellious, unfilial, and bullied the weak. My father was busy with affairs of state and my grandmother was very old. They had no energy to handle me, and decided to send me to the village. On the day we left I cried my heart out, begging my father not to send me away. Father, Ali is a good child, Ali didn't lie, she is not my mother. My father knelt and stroked my head. Ali, I believe you, but I must keep her to find clues about your mother. You say you kept her to find my mother, but after so many years there has been no news. You sent your biological daughter away, took in the child of your enemy, and even wanted to hand the whole household over to the enemy's son. Father, do you have any place in your heart left for me and my mother? My father hung his head in defeat. Ali, I have failed your mother, and I have failed you. I will make it up to you. Those were your own words. 6. Before dawn, Jiang Yang dragged the dowager of the Yongchang Marquisate to the general's residence, demanding they take me away. Beast, even if I quarter you and tear you limb from limb, it wouldn't soothe my son's spirit in heaven or rid my heart of its hatred. Jiang Yang's mother had been raised like a treasure in front of the old marquise. When she suddenly passed away, the dowager was naturally heartbroken. The pampered old marquise now looked haggard. My father refused to hand me over, not only out of bias but because I was his only bloodline. Over the years he had tried, but neither his main wife nor his concubines had produced a single son or daughter. When I first left the general's residence, I often hid by the little river outside the manor and cried, with no one to care for me, until I met an older girl. She asked why I was crying. Although I was small, the sudden upheaval and the gossip around me made me vaguely understand my situation. I said, Father married a stepmother and sent me away. There will be other children in the future. I'm the unwanted poor thing. The girl's spirited brows lifted. Kid, even if you become a beggar and die of hunger, no one will pity you. If you want something, you have to fight and snatch it yourself. Understand? I looked up at her. How do I fight? Teach me, sister. She took out a porcelain bottle. Give this to your father to drink. Will it poison my father to death? No. If it killed him, who would win you glory and wealth? This medicine guarantees. From now on everything of your father will belong only to you. At year's end I hid in the manor steward's convoy that was transporting New Year gifts back to the residence. My father, my mother and Jiang Yang, all dressed in new clothes, were sitting together enjoying the New Year's Eve dinner, a happy picture of a family of 3 that stabbed my eyes with pain and made tears instantly well up. Wiping them away, I didn't utter a single complaint. I obediently said I missed him, made the lamb milk gruel I had learned to cook in the manor school, and coaxed him to finish it all with childish charm. It didn't trouble my father at all, and I voluntarily followed the convoy back to the manor. My father still remembers that dessert and brags to everyone how his little daughter risked wind and snow to come back and be filial at such a young age. My mother's death, the old marquise was the mastermind. Why is she still alive and well while my mother's body remains missing? I searched everywhere for a handy tool, wanting only to smash her and end it all. The princess has arrived, oh my. The tension is thick. What's happened? Speak up and let me hear. The princess's sudden arrival left everyone stunned, and the noisy general's residence fell silent. The old marquise, relying on her age, stepped forward. Your Highness, the Longwu Guard General is sheltering the filicide murderer He Li. He scorns the law. Please, Your Highness, avenge my unjustly slain, pitiable daughter. The princess took her seat. Is this so, General He? What do you have to say? My father said. Nonsense. Ali is a filial child, just returned to the residence. How could she kill her mother? The matter has already been investigated. One of the lady's maidservants stole valuables to pay off her gambler son's debts, and when discovered she killed the lady to silence her. The old marquise, though aged, should not leap to condemn others on mere hearsay. One must speak with evidence, not convict with empty accusations. I am the evidence. Jiang Yang knelt before the princess, pointing at me. I beg your highness to rule. Cousin really did kill aunt. The princess ignored Jiang Yang and turned to me. What do you say? I bowed to the princess. Your highness. Jiang Yang says she is the evidence, then let her recount the entire incident, time, place, my motive and the murder weapon, and who else was present at the scene. Jiang Yang couldn't speak, stammering, you're jealous that aunt treats me well. Because of this, I'm going to murder my mother. Jiang Yang, your accusation is far too clumsy. Jiang Yang had nothing to do with the matter. She only heard the maid shouting, the eldest miss killed the madam, and in her panic didn't dare even glance that way. She seized the confusion to run to the Yongchang Marquis's residence to fetch help. The princess sipped her tea leisurely. I understand. Miss Jiang and sister He have a personal grudge, don't they? Jiang Yang's face flitted with panic. No, I did not frame my cousin. It was really my cousin who killed my mother. Aunt, the old marchioness's chest heaved with anger. Does the princess intend to shelter a murderer? I will petition the court and ask the emperor to judge this. Silence. How dare you offend the princess? Smack her. A court lady at the princess's side walked up to the old marchioness and raised her hand to strike. Whether from fright or feigned fainting, the old marchioness rolled her eyes and collapsed. The princess had guards escort Jiang Yang and the old marchioness back to their residence, and sent a message to the Yongchang Marquis. My sworn sister, County Lady Jiari, is soft-hearted and kind. Whoever troubles her should first ask me, Yuan Zhao, if I consent. Princess Yuan Zhao kept her word and brought the imperial decree in the emperor's handwriting, conferring upon me the title County Lady Jiari. In the end, the matter was closed as the household maid having stolen valuables and, when discovered, killing the mistress. As for that maid who committed the crime, she was dealt with. With the Prince of Zhennan missing, the Yongchang Marquis's house lost its backing and dared not openly offend the general's house supported by a princess, and so had to swallow their grievance. Taking the opportunity, my father held a grand funeral for my mother. My mother's body and that of the man she had been seeing were burned to ashes. 7. At Lady Larrow's birthday banquet. She unexpectedly sent an invitation to the general's residence. Fearing I might refuse, she even asked several influential ladies to plead on her behalf. The gist was that my maternal family wanted to make peace, hoping I, as the younger generation, would consider the bigger picture and not be ungrateful, so as not to affect future marriage prospects. On the day of the Hongmen feast, I dressed up early. My father fretted, maybe you shouldn't go. I looked unconcerned. In front of everyone, he wouldn't dare do anything to me. If I act evasively, it'll only make me seem guilty. As soon as we arrived at the Marquis of Yongchang's residence, Jiang Yang said Lady Larrow who wanted to see me alone and had even sent my maid away. I followed her all the way to Lady Larrow's courtyard. It was quiet inside, with only a strong, muscular attendant accompanying Lady Larrow who sat upright in a Nanmu chair, glanced at me lightly. sent Jiang Yang out, and had the attendant close the door. Seizing the opportunity, while the attendant's back was turned, I grabbed a vase and smashed it down on her head with all my strength. The burly attendant fell with a thud and died. Lady Larrow, who didn't expect me to be so bold, she was so frightened that she knocked over the scalding tea beside her. She couldn't even call out. Only managing a faint whisper of help, I hurried over and finished it quickly. Lady Larrow, who fell as well, go downstairs and apologize to my mother when you see her, and could reunite with your good grandson, the heir of Marquis Yongchang. There was no choice. I played the good person again. Jiang Yang, who had reached the courtyard gate, heard the noise and came back to check, only to find I'd knocked her unconscious. Although detestable, she wasn't involved in my mother's death, and I will not slaughter the innocent. I summoned the princess's undercover guard who had been assigned to me and sent Jiang Yang out of the Marquis Yongchang's residence first. When Jiang Yang called for me to leave, no one discovered it. Now I returned to the women's quarters with my maid, and everyone simply thought I had just arrived. When it was almost time for the banquet to begin, the scene descended into chaos. The old Marchioness was murdered, and the Marquis of Yongchang led people to search for the killer. The many guests who had come to offer birthday congratulations were suspected of being the murderer, and they immediately darkened their faces and wanted to leave, not daring to offend the powerful Marquis of Yongchang. They could only let them go. Those of lower rank than him stayed behind to be questioned. Because of this, he had offended quite a few people. The Marquis of Yongchang wanted to take me down to interrogate me privately, but the princess's maid stopped him. The maid showed her token. By the princess's order, County Lady Jiari is her sworn younger sister. In seeing the county lady, one must treat her as if seeing the princess, and no one is to be disrespectful. Marquis Yongchang wanted to detain me by force, but he had no evidence, and my maid is skilled in martial arts. She's even an expert, so he could only blow his beard and glare in anger, watching helplessly as I left. 8. The emperor has lingered in the harem for heirs for years, exhausting his body. Now, in his advanced age, his health is deteriorating by the day. The imperial infirmary has long since been taken into the princess's pocket. The emperor truly believed, just as the imperial physicians said, that he was merely getting old and lacking in energy. With nothing serious amiss, he only needed more rest. After the disappearance of the heir apparent of the Prince of Jiangnan, the court was thrown into turmoil. All factions were eager to take a stand, maneuvering incessantly, and memorials recommending candidates for the heir apparent piled up before the emperor like falling snow. The princess also fanned the flames. The emperor came to see clearly that his subjects were not unwaveringly loyal to him. No ruler can tolerate his power being threatened, and he believed himself to be the true dragon son of heaven, blessed by the heavens and destined for a long life. So he announced to the court that the matter of appointing an heir required careful consideration and was not to be rushed. One night when the emperor rose, he heard outside the door a young eunuch addressing the head eunuch Li Gonggong as dry dad, fussing over him with concern, a picture of filial affection. As one grows old, one likes grandchildren around. The knees, the emperor began frequently summoning Princess Yuanzhao into the palace. Each time she came, the princess brought the emperor some homemade food, sometimes medicinal dishes, sometimes soft pastries easy to digest, sometimes simple home-cooked side dishes, and sometimes she would tidy the cluttered imperial desk. While the emperor reviewed memorials, she would quietly sit nearby, grinding and keeping him company. Only when the emperor himself brought up an issue from court would the princess express her views. Reasoned, grounded, neither arrogant nor irritable, the emperor praised, "My child possesses both virtue and talent, and is exemplary in filial piety." He then sighed, "If only not for being of the female sex. Very well, I will leave a will. Whoever succeeds the throne must treat my child well." Princess Yuanzhao said calmly, "As his only offspring, even if he acknowledges my abilities, he still looks down on my gender. Little Ali, watch, one day I will make gender unimportant. What men can do, women can do as well. I will definitely support the princess's grand plan. Why not take that porcelain vase and smash him with it, so your wish can be fulfilled sooner?" Gong laughed heartily. "Don't be hasty, wait and watch the show. Peach blossoms blazing. grass growing and orioles flying. Each year the palace holds a spring banquet, attended by the emperor and his consorts. At the banquet, the emperor's favorite concubine, Concubine Li, suddenly began vomiting uncontrollably in front of a dish of braised carp. The imperial physician diagnosed that Consort Li was pregnant. The emperor was overjoyed. Heaven has blessed us. My line will continue. Reward her. Bestow the title Li Gui. Consort Li, the emperor, in the year he took the throne, had only just sired a princess with the late empress. Since then the harem had borne no other children. At this age, when one accepts fate, to suddenly have another child, how could he not be pleased? The princess also beamed with joy as she congratulated her father, pulling the imperial physician to question him closely, as if intent on personally going to care for Consort Li. The emperor felt very gratified. Yuan Zhao, you finally have a biological younger brother. You must guard this realm well for your imperial brother. The princess concealed the scorn in her eyes and, seemingly casually, asked the imperial physician, how many months along is the child in Consort Li's womb? The imperial physician cupped his hands and bowed. Your Highness, 3 months. Clang! The emperor flew into a rage, smashing the wine cup in his hand to the floor, shards scattering everywhere. Wretch, how dare you commit adultery and defile the palace? Guards, drag her out and beat her to death with clubs. After such a swing from great joy to great sorrow, the emperor passed away that very night. Everything is under the princess's control, as the courtiers fiercely argued over whom to elevate. Eunuch Li, at the emperor's side, stepped forward with the imperial will to read it aloud. The imperial will decreed that the throne be passed to the princess. The court erupted in an uproar and demanded to verify the authenticity of the will. Let them inspect the princess's estate as they wish. The imperial will was fake. No one knew the princess could write in 2 different scripts and had secretly been imitating the emperor's handwriting for over a decade. All for this day, no one could tell truth from forgery, and the ministers looked at one another in confusion. One minister, unwilling to accept it, spoke up to challenge. Your Majesty previously intended to make the crown prince of the Zhennan prince the heir. He changed his tone, remembering the crown prince's disappearance, and angrily pointed at the princess. You killed the crown prince of Zhennan, a wolf's heart. My father the emperor has just passed. Do you intend to rebel? The imperial guards behind the princess all flashed their weapons in unison, and the ministers shrank back in fear. The princess scanned the court. All those earlier rumors were deliberately spread by my father to protect me. I am my father's only blood, and he taught me personally for many years, precisely to hand the throne to me after his passing. But never in history has a woman been emperor, she thundered. Then I shall start that precedent. The hall fell silent. A minister asked, Marquis of Yongchang, what do you think of this? The Yongchang Marquis's household had been the staunchest supporter of making the Zhennan prince's son heir. Now that the crown prince was missing and his own son had vanished as well, and knowing the father and son had plotted against the princess, he dared not speak up for fear of old scandals being reopened and bringing his whole family to execution. The old fox clutched his head and feigned a headache. The princess considerately ordered her maids to help him rest aside. A minister asked my father, General your son was close with the Zhennan prince's son, so what if they were close? Are young people not allowed to make friends? My father looked at me, and I quietly edged closer to the princess. He gritted his teeth, drew out the Imperial Guard's military token, and handed it to the princess. The emperor himself said he would pass the throne to the princess and ordered us to protect her accession. My father had once taken a sword for the emperor. As a trusted retainer, his words carried weight. Eunuch Li also came forward to testify. The emperor personally declared on his deathbed that he passed the throne to the princess, and Consort Shu was present. Eunuch Li had long been bought by the princess. What she promised Consort Shu is unknown. Consort Shu, supported by palace maids and looking haggard, came forward. I can attest that the emperor personally said on his deathbed that he would pass the throne to the princess. I, my father, Consort Shu, and Eunuch Li were the first to kneel and cry aloud. A nation cannot be without a sovereign for a day. We respectfully invite the new monarch to ascend the throne. Long live the emperor. Long, long live the emperor. Over the years the princess had gathered many allies in court. They knelt and echoed, "We invite the emperor to ascend. Long live the emperor." Once someone led, other ministers gradually bowed and knelt. Even unwilling, seeing the armored imperial guards along the palace way, they had no choice but to kneel. The princess quickly ascended the throne, taking the era name Yuanzhao. His Majesty asked me what reward I desired. "You helped me remove the greatest rival and secured crucial support. You are a meritorious subject," I answered truthfully. "As a subject and daughter, I once sought only to avenge my mother. Now that that great vengeance is complete, my wish is fulfilled, I ask for nothing else." His Majesty considered briefly. "I confer upon you the title Prince of Changle, and grant you a princely mansion. Assist me in fulfilling my long-held wish to promote women's education, select female officials, elevate women's status, and help women establish their own households." There were many opposing voices at court about granting me a princely title. The fiercest opponents were secretly investigated by the emperor's guards. None of those ministers were clean. Embezzlement, taking women by force, condoning vicious servants, each uncovered offense was severely punished by the emperor, and the opposition quickly disappeared. I was elevated from Countess Jiari to Prince of Changle. My father had initially opposed my ennoblement. Our family already has a first-rank Grand General. Conferring a prince title would be too conspicuous, because he stood with the winning side in time and had merits. The emperor granted him the rank of first-rank protector of the nation Grand General, a tremendous honor for the family. I nodded. "Father, you are right. Our family must not be too ostentatious. Resign your office to the emperor." My father froze. I said earnestly, "Father, do you know my mother's name? She was not called Jiu Mingzhu, she was Lin Daohua, a name given by our foster parents, wishing her a life as radiant as a peach blossom. Years ago I recovered her remains and buried them in the peach grove on the estate. You always say you miss her to the bone. She misses you too. Go be with her." My mother's remains had long since disappeared. As a child I had no power or influence and couldn't find them. But now my father felt guilty toward me and my mother. He looked at me deeply once and then turned away. The next day he resigned from his post. His Majesty readily accepted. After my father left, it felt as if a great stone had been lifted from my heart and everything became clear. My feelings toward him were complicated and I didn't know how to face him. He was my biological father, yet he had lived for 12 years with the man who killed my mother, sent away his own flesh and blood, and raised someone else's child. If not for an accidental encounter in childhood, Your Majesty, if she had helped him, my father would long ago have had many children, and the general's mansion would never have left room for me. In the mountains I recognized His Majesty. I never expected that a lucky strike would remove his rival and in doing so repay a childhood debt. Fate had its own design. After leaving to Jiangxi's pregnant wife Lin Jina a house and a shop enough for her to live on, I sold all the belongings of the general's mansion, took the money I had, and moved into the Prince of Changle's residence, plunging into a new objective. His Majesty saw me busy year after year on matters of the Girls' Academy and thought I deserved proper reward. "My dear minister, do you want men, dukes, nobles, sons of great families? Choose as you like." "Your Majesty, I only want men, but I don't want to marry. Is that possible?" The emperor laughed heartily and the next day sent a group of men about my age. I picked 3 I liked and made it clear they were not husbands but attendants to the Lord. Those who stayed would not be mistreated, and those who did not wish to stay could go to His Majesty without blame. The 3 handsome gentlemen looked at each other for a moment and all said they were willing to stay. 2 years later I gave birth to a daughter and named her he/she. Then I petitioned the emperor for sterilization medicine for the men. I had no plans to have more children, and I especially did not want my daughter years later to compete for power with half-siblings extra about the princess. The emperor relied on the support of the Empress Dowager's family to ascend the throne. After securing his position he discarded them like a used tool. He poisoned the Empress Dowager and, on a whim, found an excuse to exile my maternal grandfather's family to a harsh border garrison where they were forbidden to return without an imperial edict. Only I, still young, remained in the capital. fortunately the only dragon seed in the palace, but once the emperor had other offspring, my fate would likely mirror that of my mother's clan. Eunuch Li, close to the emperor, had benefited from the Empress Dowager, and the head of the Imperial Medical Academy had been saved by my maternal grandfather when he was young. Thus my act of giving the emperor sterilizing medicine went very smoothly. For many years after, no children were born in the palace. The emperor, who had always struggled for heirs, took it as a punishment for his own sins and thought himself struck by heaven. I became the palace's only princess. The prince of Southern Town invited me to hunt in the mountains, intending to have me owe him a life debt and thereby gain my support. The emperor only intended to make him heir apparent. He was not the only suitable candidate, and with my backing his chances would rise considerably. But why did he never consider that I would vie for that position too? I arranged people to ensure the heir of the Prince of Southern Town and his supporters, the heir of the Marquis of Yongchang and the son of the Grand General of the Dragon Guards, would be hunted down and killed in the mountains. Those few were indeed capable and miraculously escaped. It was a pity such an opportunity would be unlikely to come again. Fortunately, little He Li helped me resolve this thorny matter. From the moment she appeared I recognized her as the little girl who once cried like a spotted cat. Like me, her mother was dead and her father uncaring. Whatever she wanted she had to fight for with all her strength.